Most of the medical devices, what we are using in our healthcare system, whether it's a privately held or a government-run healthcare system, they're all imported, right? So do you foresee that India will also be ready for homemade medical devices?
100%. A lot of government driven incentives schemes are already there, and what we are realizing that young startup companies have started approaching. First of all, earlier the devices means only the hardware part. Now there is a convergence of hardware and software into one single piece. Whether that software is a simple rule-based, reading, or it is an AI-driven structured information, I think both of them are now definitely converging, and a lot of young startup companies are coming up with these kind of devices. Uh, See, difference between some other industry and this industry is that here uh, we can't afford to take any chance. There is always a zero tolerance for error. Machine is saying something else, human body is talking something else. Doctor is taking a decision based on the reading a med device. That's not going to help the patient. And so we don't want to. It's a simple case of life and death. So we are very cautious. We are super cautious. A lot of times we do POCs and pilot to parallel run between the proven tech versus the new startup devices. And then, if the concurrences are there between the two instruments, then those kind of devices comes into the production system.
Since I come from the services industry, and this I was talking to a couple of startups and I was trying to throw some ideas. In the IT industry, we use a terminology called MVTS, which is multi-vendor technology support. Unfortunately or fortunately, in the medical devices industry, the devices which is being supplied by the original equipment manufacturer alone can do the servicing. For example, in Medanta or any other health chain, you might have devices, let's say, from different 11 to 12 vendors. Do you foresee for startups if they can address this question of MVTS?
Uh, See, even if you look into software industry, uh, I'm also from the same industry, but there are only you count those standard softwares in two hands. Be it Oracle, SAP, Infor, Microsoft products, SFDC. There are all of these product companies, even Google Workspaces and other stuff. There are not more than 2 dozen or which have built their SI partners very very well, and that's why they are popular. They have that training ecosystem in place. They have their SI partner training ecosystem in place. Uh, Healthcare industry has not been able to do that.
Okay.
Okay, and still, if you look into some of the very high end customized products in the software industry, challenge is the same. You are captive to one particular service provider. So I think this should come out, but I have not seen any startup coming in this space, because most of these tech which are there as part of the larger players, be it Siemens, GE, Fuji, you know,
They are proprietary in nature.
Philips, they are proprietary.
Proprietary nature. I'll tell you an example here. There was this company which is based out of Indianapolis called Trimedics. You might have heard about that, right? At some point in time, Trimedics and Narayan Hridayalaya, they made a JV in India. They tried to survive here for about a couple of years or 3 years. That was the time where GST was getting implemented. Because of the complex GST which was getting implemented, the guys from US, they didn't understand anything. They walked out of the JV with Narayan Hridayalaya. But I think for the startup ecosystem, the multi-vendor technology support probably involves about a couple of things they should keep in mind. One, keep a minimum level of inventory to client service. One client who has got multiple medical devices is paramount, very important for the healthcare industry. That's one. And typically, healthcare industry also demands a higher level of a turnaround time. The TAT and SLA expectation or something which is the high standard. They maintain a very high standards. I think the third and most important thing is that all these medical equipment, original equipment manufacturers, they should be willing to encourage such kind of startups, which is willing to client service they become a single point of contact for all sort of services for Medanta. Instead of Medanta running around to the names which you take, it could be Siemens, it could be XYZ, GE or any other equipment. For everything you need to have a kind of a contact or SPOC point which you need to talk about to the respective OEMs who will come into the client servicing. And instead of that, if there is one interface which can work, I think, don't you think that could be a very big boom for the startup industry in India?
Yes.
Specifically in the government sector, look at the amount of primary healthcare centers we have. Look at the amount of secondary healthcare center we have. And most of them buy equipments. Some point in time, they do not even renew an AMC. Of course, it's a public fund. And you will see these equipments are lying in the corridors of these hospital chains, whether it's a primary or secondary. They're not usable. They're not usable because they're not client service by the OEMs. OEMs require multiple other stuff. So in case if there is a encouragement, which can be given to the startup guys to think in those lines, that, can I be a single point of contact for all relevant services which can be provided to a health chain, be it government or private, on a multi-vendor technology platform.
I've never heard about it, and I have not seen any partner approaching us. And challenge is that some of these infrastructure is very cost intensive.
Very cost intensive, yeah.
They are not in 1 crore or 2 crores, they are in multiple of 10 crores.
Correct.
You have to be very, very bold to take that kind of a call that my PET CT machine or therapy machines will be now managed by a startup.
Mm-hmm.
The machine itself costs multi-10 crore rupees, and if it is non-functional for 2 hours also, there is something which is not about revenue, care which is getting impacted. The guy has a surgery in the morning and his CT was supposed to perform in the night to know the current position of the tumor or the disease pattern, and it is not done, surgery gets postponed because the startup guy is not able to perform the basics.
There is also another possibility that most of the health chains doesn't want to take the risk. They would prefer to sign up with the GE equipment with the GE guy and Siemens equipment with the Siemens guy, or Philips with the Philips guy. I think there is a bit of an emerging. I think some of the advanced countries like Europe and US, I've seen these TriMedics is. I think now currently they have been acquired by another company that close to about $2.5 billion in size. It's headquartered in Indianapolis. I think somebody will pick up this idea, thankfully, in case if they find this is worthwhile.
Yep.
Good.
But let's try to understand the problem, how startups, 87% or whatever number you said, can overcome this stuff. I think my suggestion would be that startup has to first focus on what problem
they are solving. They are going to solve it.
So according to me, at a very high level, there are 3-4 problems when you talk about industry agnostic problems. One, how to give better service to the customer or service excellence. Second is that how do you increase the revenue. Third, of the end customer, or how do you optimize the cost, or how do you increase the operational efficiency. These are very broad level. When I went first time to Bangalore, I'm talking of 91, I stayed in Bangalore. So for me, everything who is there in the south is a Madrasi guy. Okay. Similarly, whenever, when my landlord, because Punjabi, but non-Sikh Punjabi. So when almost after 1.5 years when I was moving out of that place, so they invited me for dinner. They asked, who are you? I said, I'm Punjabi. So I said, but you're not wearing a turban. So for them, Punjabi means
wearing a turban. Yeah.
And for me, anyone in the south means Madrasi.
Correct.
So these were the gaps even in a country after independence. I'm talking of almost 50 years of independence. We were not able to make a distinction between our fellow citizens across the landscape. So I think this is a long journey.